Nick here! So today we're gonna try something different on the video game session of my channel. So usually we do unboxing of video games, but I wanted to also always do something that resonates more with my profession as game designer. So we're gonna start a new series called Game Design Explained. And on this series I'm gonna be analyzing, like playing some games and analyzing maybe how they could have done the mechanics so you guys can have an idea on how things are done from the other side. The first two episodes will be about Resident Evil 3, and we're going to be analyzing on episode 1 its core gameplay, which is all about exploring and shooting zombies to survive. And talking about zombies on episode 2, we're going to be checking their AI, how the behaviors work, movement and difficulty, and how they are applied to the shooting system to create a challenge for the player. Resident Evil is a survival horror game, which heavily relies on shooting as its core gameplay, as well as the interactions you do with the environment, allowing the player to search for new weapons, solve puzzles, and find ammo. Let's start with the shooting. I wanted to check how they did it, as there are several ways of doing it. But you could be thinking, well, that's obvious, Nick, the bullet comes from the gun and hit the target you are aiming at. But if that's your answer, you might want to think again. The bullets don't come from the gun in this game, and they are actually not even real bullets. Without going too technical, in a wide variety of games, the method used is called hit scan, and the computation makes the shot actually come from the center of the reticle. When you fire, the game checks where your reticle is, and then the place is hit. So, no real ballistics here. To show you how that works, I did a simple test that you can do too. If you position yourself next to an object that has a collision, and you obstruct the gun with that object, while not having the reticle obstructed and then you fire, you're going to understand better what I mean. When I fire, you can see that I'm hitting the target, even if the gun is obstructed. This is gonna be true for all the game's pistols, assault rifles, and SMG. To test it even further, let's use the tree as an obstacle, which by the way are one of the best objects to do tests for shooting, as they are a little bit harder to solve all the edge cases, and again, look at where the shots are going versus where the gun is aiming at. I will go even further and do the same with an explosive barrel. This one is a little bit trickier because of the extended collision to help you shooting it, but I will cover that later. So yeah, sorry to disappoint you, but some guns in Resident Evil are just a pretty visual, nothing more. The development reasons behind each decision are usually to favor gameplay. In Resident Evil 3, the gameplay is all about stopping, aiming, and shooting targets that attack at melee range, repositioning as they come closer. The areas are often wide, and there are not many obstacles between you and them. So that's a very simplified way to explain how hit scan works. I like to say that games are smokes and mirror, and you can see how that's true here. Like a magician, what you see is a combination of effects and mechanics that make gunplay feel real, but they are just smokes and mirror. The more you spend on this, the more realistic and good looking it will be in the final game. Let me go through some of those things added on top of the hit scan to give you the feeling you're shooting a gun and there is a real bullet there. To explain, we will check in slow motion while firing a bullet and then firing the whole clip. As soon as I shoot, in the first frames you see two things. The first one is the muzzle flash that comes from the tip of the gun. In this case, it's a series of VFXs combined together to give the feeling that the bullet was fired from the gun, like the smoke and the fire. When it's well done, it makes all the difference. The second one is a slight change of the FOV to give you the impression of shaking camera when the bullet is fired. FOV is field of view, and simply put, it's how much you see of the screen. If you look at the garbage bin, you can see that they lower the FOV just a little bit, which makes the bin feel a little bit closer to the player, and then return the FOV to normal. Keep looking at it and you will see the FOV changing. As the gun is fired, we have the character animation, the shell ejection, and the bullet hit decal on the wall with some lights to give the feeling of impact. The camera also moves up to simulate the effect of recoil, which is one of the most noticeable things that gives guns their own personality. To put it simply, recoil is the force applied in the opposite direction when a bullet is fired. And the recoil is what challenges the player's skills, as they need to keep the aim at the enemy even if the gun is pulling away from it. This makes the weapon have its own personality, and because each gun treats the recoil differently, they feel different and unique in their own way. But how do we do that in a video game? Again, this is one way of doing it, but basically, the first bullet you fire if you're not moving and have been in aim down sights always hits the center of the reticle. After that, you will see that the reticle becomes bigger to give you a feedback that while expanded, every time you fire, the next bullet will hit anywhere within an imaginary square, circle or diamond, depending on the implementation. One way of doing it is generating a two-dimensional axis which have their zero where the center of the reticle is. After firing the first bullet, we apply a random value of min and max for each axis. In this example, I'm saying that the next bullet can land anywhere within this area, even making a negative recoil, meaning the gun could potentially go down as you fire. See the red dots? That's just an example of potential places that could be hit. Now, we want our recoil to go up, right? So we make the minimum amount of recoil to be a random between 0 and 0.4, which means that now the bullets can go on the upper section of the graph. But what about the fact that the reticle changes size over time? That's another modifier added on top of the random values. One way of doing it is increasing or decreasing the min and max random value on time after first bullet. So for example, I could say that if the player shoots a bullet, if the next bullet hits within the next 0.2 seconds, the min and max will increase by a certain percentage, which gives the impression the recoil becomes harder to control. In the end, you would have a recoil pattern more or less like this. Then you can do variations. For example, the Desert Eagle recoil pulls more towards the right, and it takes more time for it to recover the recoil, as you can see here. So the developers want you to fire this gun very slowly or master the recoil. For the machine gun, they use other tricks. While on the pistol, the recoil goes back to the initial position, if you fire slowly, the same does not happen with the machine gun. Every bullet, even if you time it, just make the recoil go up. Also, the first bullets are more grouped up. So the intended gameplay at long range is firing bursts for maximum precision or fire at will when in close range and control the recoil. Shotgun works a little bit differently. They do use hit scan, but in a different way to simulate the many pellets that come from a shotgun shell. You will see that when I shoot at the wall at this distance, there are no pellet decals. Watch as I shoot closer to the wall. You will see that one pellet hit the railing. Now, if I get even closer, you can see the pellet's impact. So the shotgun hit scan basically works only up to 5 meters distance. If you shoot at a longer range, you will never hit the target. This is done because shotguns are very tricky to balance, as they can become snipers if not tuned properly. They cap at such a short distance because during testing, the players were probably able to kill with them from very far, and it was not matching the intended gameplay, making it boring to use. Here, the pellets come from the center of the screen, but instead of going straight, they go in an angle. In Resident Evil, the angle is very steep, even at short range. The circular reticle of the gun should be an indicative of the pellet's spread. But as you can see, the spread does not match the reticle, meaning that this is actually a false positive, and will lead to player expecting the gun to hit a target, but not hitting it. The only gun that behaves with a real ballistic movement, where there is a projectile and this projectile comes from the gun, is the grenade launcher. That needs to be done because otherwise it would look very fake in comparison to doing it with non-projectile weapons. The grenade launcher fires ballistic grenades, as you can see. This is done to simulate how a grenade launcher works in real life and also because they are powerful weapons, so the developers want you to use this weapon in short range or learn the drop-off that the grenades have. See that when I block my gun, even if the reticle is clear, I will hit the pole, meaning that the bullet is actually coming from it. The last thing I want to show to you is how much they put emphasis on asking you to do headshots on zombies. Here, you can see that when I shoot next to the body, the collision pretty much matches the human form. But when I shoot the head, the actual collision is a little bit bigger, probably something like this. Near the neck it matches the model, but not above or near the forehead and ears, and that's only valid if you're shooting from the front. This is done to help the player landing the shots, as the head counts for a very small percentage of the body surface, and in this game they really want you to go for the head instead of shooting the guns in the zombie's body. If you go to options, you can also trigger aim assist, which enables a series of helpers to make the shooting easier. The same trick is used on objects the developers want players to interact with, like barrels. Look at how far I am shooting it and the barrel still explodes. So yeah, as you can see, doing games is very complicated and they have to do a lot of tricks and smokes and mirror to make things work. So I hope you guys liked it, and then in the next video of the series we're going to be checking the AI in Resident Evil and how it works, what they have done to make the AI credible and interesting for you as you do the gunplay. I hope you guys liked it, and if you have any ideas for other games that you would like me to try to explain how the design works, don't forget to write in the comment section. Also, if you are not a subscriber, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell button to receive the notifications whenever a new video comes out. Thank you guys, and see you guys next time. Bye!